Thank you for this opportunity to contribute to your important discussion, and I'm very sorry that I'm not able to be there today in person. It's very simple. If my uncle had sexually abused me in Poland and I went to the police today, he would not be arrested. Poland would leave a dangerous repeat child sex offender living in contact with children. And you would say this is my fault because I took too long to report him. Now, I sent my uncle to prison many years ago, but even if I did press charges here in Scotland today, he would immediately be arrested because I'm only 42. The average age of disclosure is 52 for a man. Now, no survivor wants to go to court. No survivor wants to have to sit publicly and relive all of the horrendous details of the most traumatic and humiliating experiences of their lives. The only reason I reported my uncle is because I had to. He was a school teacher and he ran football teams of young boys. It was not about revenge or compensation. It was an urgent matter of child protection. Now, one journalist asked me, if what your uncle did to you was so bad, why did you wait so long to tell someone? So please understand this. It took me years to tell someone because what he did to me was so bad. If my uncle actually lived on the moon, out of contact with any other child, I would have lived out the rest of my life and died without ever having told anyone what he did to me. Brave Movement, we now have members in almost 80 countries. So I've now worked with survivors from right across the world. And I noticed that the reason victims stay quiet is actually different everywhere. The Scottish Government commissioned me to write a paper on this. I called it The Quality of Silence. An 8-year-old boy from a very poor Christian family will stay silent for very different reasons than a wealthy 12-year-old Muslim girl, even if they live in the same city. In most Catholic families, speaking about anything sexual feels impossible, even if you were an unwilling participant in the event. In nations where there has been a recent war or some major political shift, this can create a mistrust of the police. And so survivors will not go to the police for help when they have to deal with something that they consider a family matter. Some communities have very traditional views on masculinity, where men who show their emotion are seen as weak. So instead of seeking support when they're struggling, they reach for alcohol or other substances to just numb these feelings away. Since I was 17, I've spent over £30,000 on therapy. And today I'm still in an alcohol recovery program that I pay for. I have such fond memories of my times in Warsaw. I found Polish people to be very kind. Some of the nicest people I've ever met in my life were in Poland. And yet, while I was there, I observed a very heavy silence for the survivors that I met in Poland. Over a decade ago, I spoke to your media about abolishing the statute of limitations. And that news article was attacked online with very homophobic comments. Now, to be clear, the article did not say that I was gay. I just spoke about having been sexually assaulted by a man. And the public response seemed to be assuming that that automatically made me gay. And it appeared from the comments that that was not viewed as a very good thing. So there's two major problems with this. The assumption that being abused can alter your sexuality. It doesn't. And also the religious conservatism that promotes a fear of LGBT people. And I saw this in Italy and Portugal, anywhere where there's a kind of conservative religious presence. But this environment creates a major silence for the boys abused by men and the girls abused by women. How can you ever tell anyone if the truth will mean that everyone that you care about in your life will never look at you the same ever again? 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men need to quietly overcome all of the internal psychological trauma that's so complex. And then they have to surmount all of these social obstacles and stigma, and then be brave enough to speak to the police, in most cases without any support. And all of that has to happen within just 22 years of turning an adult. For the vast majority of survivors, this is an impossible situation. And that is why the UNCRC Steering Committee have recommended removing all time limits on prosecuting childhood sexual violence. The Parliamentary Assembly of the Council of Europe have recommended complete abolition of the statute of limitations. The European Parliament, who represent the voice of the people, have unanimously voted to include abolishing statute of limitations in the historic recast directive. I'm so grateful to Poland for the step forward you took in 2023. And real progress is often incremental. Hungary started with a first step. They abolished the statute of limitations just for most serious crimes. And then they took the next step, abolishing for all sexual violence against children. So your discussion today is part of actually a global awakening, as governments across the world are realizing the real danger in imposing any deadline on justice. Nations across the world, from South Korea to Chile, have moved quickly to abolish their statute of limitations. Thank you for holding this discussion today. You are on the right track, so please keep going. Be kind and be brave. Remember how brave every single Polish victim has to be every single day. And please abolish the statute of limitations completely and remove Poland's deadline on justice.
In many member states, we see that by the time victims are ready to file these charges, the justice system says, I'm sorry, but the deadline has run out. And there cannot be a deadline for justice.